Hello everyone. Welcome to the lecture for the course Refrigeration and Air Conditioning. Today we will continue with the vapor compression system, and under that we will see the waste heat recovery opportunities. Myself Sumit Bardia, Assistant Professor, Department of Mechanical Engineering, Sharad Institute of Technology, College of Engineering at Rao. In this lecture we will cover the following points such as introduction to the waste heat recovery opportunities. What is waste heat recovery? Factors affecting waste heat recovery, waste heat recovery options and technologies, challenges to recovering low temperature waste heat, options for heat recovery via power generation. In that we will see simple Rankine cycle, Kalina cycle and thermoelectric generation. Captured and reused waste heat is an emission-free substitute for costly purchased fuels or electricity. Numerous technologies are available for transferring waste heat to a productive end use. Nonetheless, anywhere from 5 to 13 quadrillion BTU per year of waste heat energy remains unrecovered as a consequence of industrial manufacturing. This investigates industrial waste heat recovery practices, opportunities, and barriers in order to identify technology research, development, and demonstration needed to enable further recovery of industrial waste heat losses. Three essential components that is shown here in this figure, that is source of waste heat, recovery technology, and end use of the recovered heat. First one is an accessible source of waste heat. Second, a recovery technology. And third, a use for the recovered energies. Now, this specifically examines large energy consuming processes and identifies uncovered waste heat losses in exhaust gas totaling 1500 TBTU per year. So topics for each waste heat source include waste heat quantity and quality, available recovery technologies, and barriers to implementing heat recovery. These results are used as the basis for identifying research, development, and demonstration that can increase industrial energy efficiency by improving and developing waste heat recovery technology. Industrial waste heat refers to energy that is generated in industrial processes without being put to a practical use. Sources of heat include hot combustion gases discharged to the atmosphere, heated products existing in industrial processes, and transfer from hot equipment surfaces. The exact quantity of industrial waste heat is poorly quantified, but various studies have estimated that as much as 20 to 50% of industrial energy consumption is ultimately discharged as waste heat. While some waste heat losses from industrial processes are inevitable, facilities can reduce these losses by improving equipment efficiency or installing waste heat recovery technologies. Waste heat recovery entails capturing and reusing the waste heat in the industrial processes for heating or for generating mechanical or electrical work. Example uses for waste heat include generating electricity, preheating combustion air, preheating furnace loads, absorption cooling, and space heating. Heat recovery technologies frequently reduce the operating cost for facilities by increasing their energy productivity. Many recovery technologies are already well developed and technically proven. However, there are numerous applications where heat is not recovered due to a combination of market and technical barriers. Various sources indicate that there may be a significant opportunities for improving industrial energy efficiency through waste heat recovery. An investigation of waste heat losses, recovery practices, and barriers is required to order to better identify heat recovery opportunities and technological needs. Now, this slide shows about what is waste heat recovery. Waste heat losses arise both from equipment inefficiencies and from thermodynamic limitations on equipment and processes. For example, consider furnaces frequently used in aluminum melting operations. Exhaust gases immediately leaving the furnace can have temperature as high as 1200 to 1300 degrees Celsius. Consequently, these gases have high heat content, carrying away as much as 60% of furnace energy inputs. So efforts can be made to design more energy efficient furnaces with better heat transfer and lower exhaust temperatures. However, the laws of thermodynamics place a lower limit on the temperature of exhaust gases. Since heat exchange involves energy transfer from the high temperature source to a low temperature sink, the combustion gas temperature must always exceed the molten aluminum temperature in order to facilitate aluminum melting. The gas temperature in the furnace will never decrease below the temperature of molten aluminum, since this would violate the second law of thermodynamics. Therefore, the minimum possible temperature of combustion gases immediately existing in an aluminum furnace corresponds to an aluminum pouring point temperature, that is 650 to 750 degrees Celsius. In this scenario, at least 40% of the energy input to the furnace is still lost as waste heat. Recovering industrial waste heat can be achieved via numerous methods. The heat can be either be reused within the same process or transferred to another process. Ways of reusing heat locally include using the combustion exhaust gases to preheat combustion air or feed heater in industrial boilers. By preheating the feed water before it enters the boiler, the amount of energy required to heat the water to its initial temperature is reduced. Alternately, the heat can be transferred to another process. For example, a heat exchanger could be used to transfer heat from combustion exhaust gases to hot air needed for a drying oven. In this manner, the recovered heat can replace fossil energy that would have otherwise been used in the oven. Such methods for recovering waste heat can help facilities significantly reduce their fossil fuel consumption as well as reduce associated operating cost and pollutant emission. Now here the table shows about the typical sources of waste heat and recovery options. Okay, so here list is given. Here combustion air heat, combustion exhaust, process of gases, cooling water from furnaces, air compressors, IC engines, conductive convective and radial losses from equipment, conductive convective and radial from heated products like hot cakes, blast furnace slags. So that is the sources of waste heat. Where it can be used, uses for waste heat: combustion air preheating, boiler feed water heating, load preheating, power generation, steam generation, space heating, water preheating, and transfer to liquid or gaseous process streams. Here the combustion air preheat can increase furnace efficiency by as much as 50%. Another advantage of waste heat recovery is that it can reduce capacity requirements for facilities, thermal conversion devices, leading to reduction in capital cost. For example, consider the case of combustion exhaust gases used to heat building air for space heat. In addition to replacing purchased fuels, the recovered waste heat can potentially eliminate the need for additional space heating equipment, thereby reducing capital and overhead cost. Now next is factor affecting waste heat recovery feasibility. Evaluating the feasibility of waste heat recovery requires characterizing the waste heat source and the stream to which heat will be transferred. Important waste stream parameters that must be determined, that includes: first is heat quantity, second heat temperature or quality, third composition, then minimum allowed temperature, and last one is operating schedules, availability and other logistics. So these are the factors affecting waste heat recovery. So these parameters allow for analysis of the quality and quantity of the stream and also provide insight into possible materials or design limitation. For example, corrosion of heat transfer media is of considerable concern in waste heat recovery, even when the quality and quantity of the stream is acceptable. Next slide is about the waste heat recovery options and technologies. Methods for waste heat recovery include transferring heat between gases and or liquids, transferring heat to the load entering furnaces, generating mechanical and or electrical power, or using waste heat with a heat pump for heating or cooling facilities. Now the following technologies for heat exchangers and for load preheating systems will give you an insight for the technologies. The terminology for heat recovery technologies frequently varies among different industries. Since this addresses multiple industries, the terminology used below is the basis for all subsequent discussion of heat exchange technology in different industries. So first of all, we'll go for heat exchanger. That is one of the best method or option for the waste heat recovery. Heat exchangers are commonly used to transfer heat from combustion exhaust gases to combustion air entering the furnace. Since preheated combustion air enters the furnace at a high temperature, less energy must be supplied by the fuel. So typical technologies used for air preheating includes recuperators, furnace regenerators, burner regenerators, rotary generators and passive air heaters. We will see one by one. So first one we will go through the recuperator. Recuperators recovers waste heat, exhaust gas waste heat in medium to high temperature applications such as soaking or annealing ovens, melting furnaces, afterburners, gas incinerators, radiant tube burners and reheat furnaces. Recuperators can be based on radiation, convection or the combinations. A simple radiation recuperator consists of two concentric lanes of ductwork, which is shown here in the figure 4a. Hot waste gases pass through the inner duct and the heat transfer is primarily radiated to the wall and to the cold incoming air. So here it is, the cold air is inlet here that will absorb it from the flue gases, or here the covering is there, insulation and metal covering is there. The preheated shell air then travels to the further furnace burners. The convective or tube type recuperator, here one more type, that is convection recuperator, passes the hot gases through relatively smaller diameter tubes contained in the larger shell. The incoming combustion air enters the shell and is baffled around the tubes, picking up heat from the waste gas. Another alternative is the combination radiation recuperator. The system includes a radiation section followed by the convection section in order to maximize heat transfer effectiveness. Recuperators are constructed either of metallic or ceramic materials. While metallic recuperators are used in applications with temperatures below 1093 degrees Celsius, while heat recovery at higher temperature is best suited to ceramic tube recuperators. This can operate with hot side temperature as high as 1538 degrees Celsius and cold side temperature of around 982 degrees Celsius. Next option is regenerator furnace regenerator. In that we'll go for first furnace regenerator. Regenerative furnaces consist of two brick checkerwork chambers through which hot and cold air flow alternately. As combustion exhaust gases through one chamber, the bricks absorb heat from the combustion gas and increase in temperature. The flow of air is then adjusted here by using this adjusted so that the incoming combustion air passes through the hot checkerwork, which transfer heat to the combustion air here entering the furnace. Two chambers are used so that here one chamber and this is second chamber are used so that one is absorbing heat and one is absorbing heat from the exhaust gases and the other is transferring heat to the combustion air. The direction of air flow is altered about every 20 minutes. So regenerators are most frequently used with glass furnaces and coke ovens and were historically used with steel open hearth furnaces. Before these furnaces were replaced by more efficient designs. They are also used to preheat the hot blast provided to blast stoves used in iron making. However, regenerators in blast stoves are not a heat recovery application, but simply the means by which heat released from gas combustion is transferred to the hot blast air. Regenerator systems are specifically suited for high temperature applications with dirty exhaust. One major disadvantage is the large size and capital cost, which are significantly greater than cost of recuperators. The next is rotary regenerator, or it is also called as heat wheel. Rotary regenerator operates similar to fixed regenerators in that heat transfer is facilitated by storing heat in a porous media and by alternating the flow of hot and cold gases through the regenerator. Rotary regenerators, sometimes referred to as air preheaters and heat wheels, use a rotating porous disc placed across two parallel ducts, one containing the hot waste gas, other containing the cold gas. Here it is shown in the figure. Warm, dry exhaust gas, hot humidified exhaust gas. Okay, and this is the rotation of wheel. Outside air is coming from this way. Okay, so the disc composed of high heat capacity material rotates between the two ducts. So this is one duct, this is second duct which rotates in between the two ducts and transfer heat from the hot gas duct to a cold gas duct. Heat wheels are generally restricted to low and medium temperature applications due to the thermal stresses created by high temperatures. Large temperature differences between the two ducts can lead to differential expansion and large deformations, compromising the integrity of duct wheel air seals. In some cases, ceramic wheels can be used for high temperature applications. Another challenge with heat wheels is preventing cross-contamination between the two gas streams, as contaminants can be transported in the wheel's porous material. One advantage of heat wheel is that it can design to recover moisture as well as heat from clean gas streams. When designed with hygroscopic materials, moisture can be transferred from one duct to the other. This makes heat wheels particularly useful in air conditioning applications, where incoming hot humid transfers heat and moisture to cold outgoing air. Besides its main application in space heating and air conditioning system, heat wheels are also used to a limited extent in medium temperature applications. They have also been developed for high temperature furnace applications such as aluminum furnaces, though they are not widely implemented due to the cost. They are also occasionally used for recovery from boiler exhaust, but more economical recuperators and economizers are usually preferred. The next heat recovery option is passive air preheaters. Passive air preheaters are gas-to-gas heat recovery devices for low to medium temperature applications, where cross-contamination between gas streams must be prevented. Applications include ovens, steam boilers, gas turbine exhaust, secondary recovery from furnaces, and recovery from conditioned air. Passive preheaters can be of two types: the plate type and heat pipe. The plate type exchanger consists of multiple parallel plates that create separate channels for hot and cold gases streams. Hot and cold flows alternate between the plates. Here cold air inlet, cooled waste gas will be released from here, and hot air to process. Hot and cold flows alternate between the plates and allow significant areas for heat transfer. These systems are less susceptible to contamination compared to heat wheels, but they are often bulkier, more costly, more susceptible to fouling problems. So these are the disadvantages of plate type passive preheaters. Next type is the heat pipe heat exchanger. Consists of several pipes with sealed ends. Each pipe contains a capillary wick structure that facilitates movement of the working medium, here this working fluid between the hot and cold ends. So hot waste gas, cold ends. Hot gases pass over one end of the heat pipe, causing the working fluid inside the pipe to evaporate. Pressure gradients along the pipe cause the hot vapor to move to the other end of the pipe. So here it is the arrow vapor shown here. It is moving from left to right, where the vapor condenses and transfer heat to the cold gas. The condensate then cycles back to the hot side of the pipe via capillary action. The next technology for waste heat recovery is regenerative or recuperative burners. Burners here I have shown the same figure here, but passive is just connected to the regenerative or recuperative burner. That's why I kept here the same figure. Burners that incorporate regenerative or recuperative systems are commercially available. Simpler and more compact in design and construction than a stand-alone regenerative furnaces or recuperators, this system provides increased energy efficiency compared to burners operating with ambient air. A self-recuperative burner incorporates heat exchange surfaces as a part of the burner body design in order to capture energy from the existing flue gas which passes back through the body. Self-regenerative burners pass exhaust gases through the burner body into a refractory media case and operate in pairs similar in manner to a regenerative furnace. Typically, recuperative burner systems have less heat exchange area and regenerative burner systems lower mass than standalone units. Hence, their energy recovery is lower, but their lower cost and ease of retrofitting make them an attractive option for the energy recovery. Next type is fin tube type heat exchanger. Fin tube heat exchangers are used to recover heat from low to medium temperature exhaust gases for heating liquids. Applications include boiler feed heater, preheating, hot process liquids, hot water for space heating, or domestic hot water. The fin tube consists of a round tube with attached fins that maximize surface area and heat transfer rates. Liquid flows through the tubes and receive heat from hot gases flowing across the tubes. Now here the figure shows a fin tube type heat exchanger where boiler exhaust gases are used for feed water heating. So here we are supplying the feed water from this tube. So that is used. Here the boiler exhaust is about 500 degree Fahrenheit, and when the heat transfer takes place, here the feed water will absorb it and converts into the temperature around 277 degree Fahrenheit, which is again transferred to the drum. That will again convert into steam in the water tube boiler, and the flue gases will be converted to 500 to 300 degree Fahrenheit flue exhaust. These are used for feed water preheating, a setup commonly referred to as boiler economizer. Now, the last from the heat exchanger, that is waste heat boilers. Waste heat boilers are such as the two-pass boiler, which is shown in the figure. Two-pass are water tube boilers that use medium to high temperature exhaust gases to generate steam. Here the hot gas is in. Waste heat boilers are available in variety of capacities, allowing for gas intakes from 1000 to 1 million feet cube per minute. In cases the waste heat is not sufficient for producing desired levels of steam, auxiliary burners or afterburner can be added to attain higher steam output. The steam can be used for process heating or for power generation. Generation of superheated steam will require addition of an external superheater to the system. Okay, so here from figure the feed water is inlet here, and that will pass through these tubes to the lower drum. Here hot gases will pass through this series of tubes. The heat transfer is taking place and the cooled waste gas will hit out, and here the steam will out from the upper end. The next slide is about the challenging to recovering low temperature waste heat. Low temperature heat recovery faces generally three challenges. First one is corrosion of the heat exchanger surface. As water vapor contained in the exhaust gas cools, some of it will condense and deposit corrosive solids and liquids on the heat exchanger surface. The heat exchanger must be designed to withstand exposure to these corrosive deposits. This generally requires using advanced materials or frequently replacing components of the heat exchanger, which is often uneconomical. So that is the first challenge. Second challenge is large heat exchange surfaces required for heat transfer. So heat transfer rates are a function of the thermal conductivity of the heat exchange material. The temperature difference between the two fluid streams and the surface area of the heat exchanger. Since low temperature waste heat will involve a smaller temperature gradient between two fluid streams, larger surface areas are required for heat transfer. This limits the economics of the heat exchanger. So that is another challenge. And the last challenge is finding a use for low temperature heat. Recovering heat in the low temperature range will only make sense if the plant has a use for low temperature heat. Potential end uses include domestic hot water, space heating, and low temperature process heating. Other options include using a heat pump to upgrade heat to a higher temperature to serve a load requiring higher temperatures. Additionally, low temperature power generation technologies are slowly emerging. So these are the challenges to recover the low temperature waste heat. Now what are the options for heat recovery via power generation? Generally, power from waste heat typically involves using the waste heat from the boilers to create mechanical energy, and then it drives an electrical generator. While these power cycles are well developed, new technologies are being developed that can generate electricity directly from heat, such as thermoelectric and piezoelectric generation. When considering the power generation options for waste heat recovery, an important factor to keep in mind is the thermodynamic limitations on power generation at different temperatures. The efficiency of power generation is heavily dependent on the temperature of waste heat source. In general, power generation from waste heat has been limited to only medium to high temperature waste heat sources. However, advances in alternate power cycles may increase the feasibility of generation at low temperatures. While maximum efficiency at these temperatures is lower, this system can still be economical in recovering large quantities of energy from waste heat. Now here the table shows about the various thermal conversion technologies with respect to temperature range, that will be low, medium, high, and the sources of waste heat that is listed here, and the capital cost. So traditional cycle requires the higher capital cost, and Kalina cycle, which is the sources of waste heat we are getting from it: exhaust from gas turbines, reciprocating engines, incinerators and furnaces. And similarly, the various conversion technologies are listed here with respect to their sources of heat, temperature range and capital cost. Now here the option for heat recovery via power generation, in that will go for the first, the steam Rankine cycle. The most frequently used system for power generation from waste heat involves using the heat to generate steam, which then drives a steam turbine. A schematic of waste heat recovery is shown in figure. The traditional steam Rankine cycle is the most efficient option for the waste heat recovery from the exhaust streams with temperature above 650 to 700 degree Fahrenheit. It is around 340 to 370 degrees Celsius. At lower waste heat temperatures, steam cycles becomes less cost effective since low pressure steam will require bulkier equipment. Moreover, low temperature waste heat may not provide sufficient energy to superheat the steam, which is a requirement for preventing steam condensation and erosion of the turbine blades. Therefore, low temperature heat recovery applications are better suited for the organic Rankine cycle or Kalina cycle, which use fluids with lower boiling point temperatures compared to steam. Next one is Kalina cycle. The Kalina cycle is a variation of the Rankine cycle using a mixture of ammonia and water as the working fluid. A key difference between single fluid cycles and cycles that use binary fluids is the temperature profile during boiling and condensation. For single fluid cycles, the temperature remains constant during boiling. As heat is transferred to a working medium, the water temperature slowly increases to boiling temperature, at which point the temperature remains constant until all the water has evaporated. A binary mixture of water and ammonia will increase its temperature during evaporation. This allows better thermal matching with the waste heat source and with the cooling medium in the condenser. Consequently, these systems achieve significantly greater energy efficiency. The last option is the thermoelectric generation. Thermoelectric materials are semiconductor solids that allow direct generation of electricity when subject to a temperature differential. These systems are based on the phenomenon known as Seebeck effect. When two different semiconductor materials are subjected to a heat source and heat sink, here heat input is there, heat ejected is there. A voltage is created between the two semiconductors. So this is P type and N type. So between that the voltage is created. Conversely, thermoelectric generation or electric materials can also be used for cooling or heating by applying electricity to dissimilar semiconductors. Thermoelectric technology has existed for a long time, the first discovered in 1821, but has been limited use due to a low efficiencies and high cost. Most thermoelectric generation systems in use have efficiency of around 2 to 5%. These have mainly been used to power instruments on spacecraft or in very remote locations. However, recent advances in nanotechnology have enabled advanced thermoelectric materials that might achieve conversion efficiency up to 15% or greater. Okay, so these are the options under waste heat recovery. So my suggestion to all students that if you want to do a research in the waste heat recovery, there is a lot of potential in this sector. Okay, so today we will stop here. We'll conclude and completed the second chapter by this PPT on waste heat recovery opportunities or technologies. Thank you.